Poultry and welcome back to this roundup video of the Wicked Kitchen Taste Test series. If this is the first video you're discovering of mine, you must visit the links in the description box below for the whole taste test from start to finish. This video is going to be my conclusion video. We're going to round up all of the taste tests we've done to this point and I'll give you some final thoughts. If you haven't checked out those other taste tests, do that now and I'll meet you back here soon. It's okay, I'll wait. Now, if you have stuck with me all week, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I hope you've enjoyed these taste test videos. I've never done anything like this before. It's incredibly nerve-wracking for me to appear on camera. It's something I've always tried to avoid at all costs where possible. But I really felt at this point in time, it was time for me to step up out of my comfort zone and embrace the rise of veganism this year. In literally the first few weeks of 2018 alone, we have seen a massive shift towards the idea of veganism moving into the mainstream markets. Most notably with the release of the Wicked Kitchen range for Tesco. As I'm sure you're all more than aware now, it's a range of ready meals, pizzas and grab and go snacks exclusively produced for Tesco's, and it's available in over 600 stores within the UK. I decided to go along to my local Tesco, see what all the fuss was about and select some of the range to test for you. This is all completely unsponsored by either Tesco or Wicked Kitchen, so you can be assured that all of the reviews in this series are completely unbiased and completely my own opinion. That being said, they are obviously my own opinion. I'd love for you to go out, support the range and form your own opinions. A quick recap of everything we've tried. There were 6 of the main ready meals and 1 pizza. First up, we had the Wicked Teriyaki Noodles, which I rated at a 6. And by the way, these ratings are purely for fun, they're purely for myself. They're obviously not based on any strict legitimate criteria. It was just the easiest way for me to decide from best to worst which dishes I preferred and which I'd be likely to buy again. 10 out of 10 does not mean this is the best food I've ever eaten. It means that in my opinion it's met all the criteria of what I expect from a good ready meal. That's something that's easy to cook, it's easy to find in the shops, it's good value for money, it's going to fill me up, and most importantly that it's actually tasty. So those are the loose criteria that I use for my ratings. First up we had the Wicked Teriyaki Noodles, which I rated at a 6 and I do still stand by that. It was my least favourite of all the dishes. It's unlikely to be something I would try again, but I was aware of that going in. I just wanted to test it because it was so different from the other items in the range, and it did have those unusual cluster mushrooms which I'd never tried before, and I really do like experimenting and trying new ingredients, so that was always going to be one that I tested. It was never likely to be one of my favourites. By all means, if you're a noodle lover, please check it out and let me know what you thought of it. It's definitely not one for anybody that's not a big fan of mushrooms, and I think possibly had the mushrooms been cut a little bit smaller, it may have got a slightly higher rating from me. I just felt that the mushrooms had been left a little bit too large in there, and therefore rather than having a chewy meaty texture they were just bordering on a little bit rubbery for me, so that was mainly one of the reasons that I marked that one down. Next up we had the barbecue butternut mac. That was a nice blend of creamy comforting mac and cheese, but it had those amazing barbecue roasted marinated mushrooms on there that definitely elevated it. Now, having done the full range of taste tests, I might be prepared to drop that slightly because the other pasta dish I did much prefer and I also rated that an 8. So now comparing them side by side, there's a possibility I would drop this rating to a 7. That's purely because I felt that the butternut mac really needed those mushrooms in order to bring out some flavour. Whereas the other dish, despite the fact that it had the addition of those Amazeballs, the pasta dish in itself would have held up as a dish on its own. So for me, I'd probably reduce this rating down to a 7. I still really enjoyed it, I just thought that the mac and cheese wasn't quite cheesy enough for me, and it did need the addition of those extra mushrooms, and for me there should have been a few more of those mushrooms just to really round out the dish. The third item in the series was the curried cauliflower, onion bhaji and coconut rice. Again, I did rate this one down, partly because what should have been coconut rice was actually coriander rice. It was so full of chopped coriander that you really couldn't taste anything other than the coriander. It did refer to the fact that the chickpeas were marinated, and for me those chickpeas were very plain and very bland. They didn't appear to be marinated at all. The cauliflower itself was good, but it didn't blow me away, and I did feel that the whole dish would have benefited from a little bit more of that masala sauce, hence the reason that I rated it down. I do still stand by this rating of 6. If you do enjoy Indian food and you're not one to experiment with a lot of whole spices, then I probably would recommend you do give it a go. As for myself, somebody that does cook a lot of Indian inspired food, it just didn't quite hit the mark for me. Next up we had the naked burrito. Now I knew this is something I was quite excited to try because it was unlike anything I'd ever tried before, and it really didn't disappoint with this one. The pulled king oyster mushrooms in this were delicious. I've never had king oyster mushrooms before. They were really reminiscent of a shredded meat product. This is definitely one of the ones I would recommend for anybody new or transitioning into veganism because they gave a really meaty, hearty texture. I really enjoyed this one overall. I am a huge fan of Mexican flavours anyway, so that probably really tipped the bar for me, but this was definitely one of my firm favourites. I would definitely buy this one again, and it's definitely one of the items in the range that I'd readily recommend. I also like the fact that it's encouraged me to try and experiment with a new ingredient, which is the king oyster mushrooms, and one of my favourite things is to discover and enjoy new flavours and new textures, so that one really hit the mark for all those reasons. Next up was the Gunpowder potato chana masala. Again, as I've said, I do eat a lot of curries and a lot of Indian inspired food, but this was exceptionally good. I did think this was probably on par with any decent Indian takeaway. I wouldn't say it was quite Indian restaurant level, but it was definitely a decent Indian takeaway, and obviously for a fraction of the price. There was a lot going on in this dish and it was really, really filling. One of the things I was really pleased about was that they hadn't gone overboard on the coriander on this one. And despite the fact that the pilau rice was quite plain and simple, it had been done so well that it really made this seem like an authentic Indian style dish. 9 out of 10 was the rating I gave it, and I stand by that rating, and I would definitely recommend this as one to try. The final meal from all the microwave meals was the veggie pasta and Amazeballs. I wasn't expecting to like this one as much as I did. I make pasta dishes for myself and my family all the time, so I really didn't expect that this one would have enough to wow me, but it did. The sauce on this was absolutely superb. It really tasted like something that had been slow roasted with love. The Amazeballs were actually Amazeballs. They were really nice. For me, they were kind of a mixture between a falafel, a Swedish meatball, and a hint of sage and onion in there. They were the perfect size, little mini mouthful bites, and all in all it was a filling, tasty meal. I didn't expect to be giving this a rating of 8 out of 10, but it definitely impressed me far more than I expected. And finally, talk about finishing on a high. The Caponata sourdough pizza. What can I say? I know some of you are probably appalled at the fact that I actually labelled this as the best pizza I'd ever eaten. I did put a disclaimer in there to say that I'd never visited Italy, but my word, this absolutely blew my socks off. I'm so pleased I decided to go with this one. I'm definitely going to try the pulled mushroom one, but I really can't see anything topping this. Not only was it the best pizza I've ever tasted, for me it was by far the best out of the entire range. It beats any pizza I've ever had anywhere. That includes any Italian restaurant or dedicated pizza chain. The salsa verde drizzled on top really took this into the stratosphere for me. It was absolutely delicious. I absolutely stand by my rating of 10 out of 10 for this, and I defy anybody to show me a £4 ready-made vegan pizza that beats this one. All in all, I'm really quite sad that this challenge has come to an end. I have missed being in the kitchen this week, but I have been amazed at the amount of time I've saved in the kitchen by not needing to cook every evening meal for myself this week. I've literally saved hours and hours of time over this week. I know that's not typical of everybody, that won't be the same for everybody, but for me, as somebody that usually cooks day after day after day, it's been a huge saving in time, and it's probably the only thing that's allowed me to get these videos done for you. Unfortunately, all good things do come to an end. Moving forward, I've got myself a nice stack of tubs here. I will be reusing these. I know that that can be a concern for a lot of people. These are definitely sturdy enough. I will be using them for my own meal prep moving forward, and definitely for bulk cooking. These are going to be used in my freezer to store lots of meals for the coming weeks. Plastic is an issue for a lot of people. It is unfortunately that type of hard plastic that most places do not recycle, and some people just have issue with their food being stored and particularly heated in plastic, so that's possibly something that's worth considering by the manufacturers. The rest of the packaging is fully recyclable. Literally all it consists of is the tub with the sleeve. As I've said, I will be reusing all of these tubs, so these are definitely not going to be going to waste for a very long time. Moving on to the elephant in the room, one of the main things I think we really need to address with this range is the price. Now I have to say that before and during my testing of this range, I came across some really negative Nellies on social media who were insisting that this range is seriously overpriced. So I really think it's important to speak to that. Another thing I will point out, the majority of the people that were making these complaints, as far as I could see, had not tried any of the range. After my experience throughout this week, I think I'm in a much better position to make a comment on that now. And this is what I think. Yes, to some people, £4 for one ready meal sounds like a lot, particularly if, like me, you're the kind of person that does a lot of cooking from scratch and does not generally rely on supermarket ready meals. I know for a fact that I could probably have made a lot of these items for quite possibly at least half the price. I also know that sourcing the ingredients and making the meal would have taken me 4 times the length of time it took for me to pop one of these in the microwave. Of course, it's all relative, and I would never suggest that £4 per meal is affordable for everybody. It's not. As somebody who lives in a family of 3, it's not affordable for me. But I can pretty much guarantee you that if we can keep up the demand for this type of product, the prices will drop. As far as I'm concerned, there is absolutely nothing to rival any of this range in any mainstream supermarket in the UK, unless you're extremely fortunate enough to live in a big city, to live somewhere that's a bit more vegan savvy, where you have the opportunity to shop at vegan supermarkets, to eat vegan takeouts, to visit vegan cafes and restaurants. There really is nothing else like this readily available without having to go to the hassle of making it yourself. For those that can afford it, I would say the best thing we can possibly do is get behind this range, give it our full support, and show the world that there is a massive need for all of these types of products. Whether it suits your individual taste, whether it suits your individual budget, whether it suits your individual style of eating, is something you need to decide for yourself. But for anybody that would quite happily eat anything from this range, all I can say to you is please, please try it for yourself. No matter what you've read on social media, no matter what you've heard, even despite of these reviews that I've produced for you this week, you need to form your own opinions and see for yourself what all this fuss is about. For me, these meals were comparable to any of the other ready meals available in the fresh ready meal food aisle. There will always be products that are cheaper. There will always be people for whom £4 is either too expensive or a drop in the hat. For anybody that would normally rely on takeaways or fast foods, something like this, an entire curry for £4, there is no way you're going to get that quality from any takeaway in the UK for less than £4. Could you make it yourself for less than £4? Absolutely you could, but that's not what these reviews were about. These reviews were about giving you an honest, fair look at a range of products, the likes of which we've never seen before in the vegan community. I highly recommend you ignore everything you've heard here this last week. Go out there, grab 1 or 2 of these if you can, pick your favourite and try it. Even if you find one item in this entire range that you know you can fall back on as an easy to find, easy to cook, ready meal in less than 5 minutes, as far as I'm concerned, my work here is done. All I want anybody to take away from this is that this range is here, it's available, it's been well thought out, it's extremely tasty, they're extremely quick and convenient, and I'm definitely going to be showing my support for them in the future. Is it enough to completely change my eating habits? Absolutely not. Is it enough to make me addicted to ready meals and to decide to hang up my apron and stop cooking? No way. It's just not going to happen. Am I excited by the fact that the next time I'm tired, fed up or feeling unwell, I can pop into my local Tesco's and pick something off the shelf that I can have ready in 5 minutes flat? Absolutely. Like I've said, you may disagree with the ratings I've given, you may disagree completely with the opinions I've presented for you this week, and I have no doubt whatsoever that there will be people that disagree with my opinions on the price. If you've been savvy enough to go ahead and try the range for yourself, please let's continue the conversation in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your own ratings. On a personal note, Mr. Sano, if you are watching, I really hope you've enjoyed this series. I'd love to try out the remainder of the range for you, get your people to call my people and we'll hook something up. In the meantime, get yourself down to Tesco's, show your support for this fabulous range, and I'll meet you all in the comments below. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. If you have enjoyed this series, do let me know, and there's a possibility I might make it a regular feature. Thanks so much for sticking with me throughout the week. The next time we meet, I'll be behind the camera and in the kitchen. Until then, thanks for watching.